Okay, we're currently recording. It's 13:07, 21st of October, 2020. Welcome to this afternoon's EPA mock session. My name is Mike Eisted. I'm the head of delivery for leadership and management and facilities management for Train Together. And I'm here with my wonderful colleague, Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Mike.
Sounds like we're in a radio station, doesn't it?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike. And here with the lovely Dawn. Dawn is one of our learning partners currently on the level 3 TLS, I believe, and due to go for an endpoint assessment soon. Hi, Dawn.
Hi.
And radio station sort of. But the whole point of this afternoon, we're going to do it into two parts. This recording is for you. It's not for us. It's for you. We're making it for you. Yes, we're going to send you a link and it's going to go on YouTube. It will be unlisted. No one will be able to see it. No one will be able to search for it. Only people with the links will be able to watch and review it. We will keep it so that we have got evidence that we've given you some coaching on your EPA. And that is a good segue to sort of introduce the fact that this, what we're going through this afternoon, is a mock EPA. Yes, it is. But what it is not is a congratulations, you've passed, failed the mock EPA. Because what we find if we do that actually there's no learning involved in it. It just gives you the experience of going through an EPA. And what we deem far more appropriate is that actually we put you in small, small microcosm sort of situations that will happen on the EPA, allow you to experience that and then give you feedback based upon that. And the overall intent is at the end of our period today, whether that's an hour and a half or whether that's 2 hours, but at the end of this period, you're much more confident because you've never met me before, and look at the state of that. It's like a bulldog licking pee off a thistle. So if you're comfortable with me, you'll be comfortable with everybody and anybody. And hopefully the advice I give you will be either, I'm sure, do nothing other than prop up what you already know, or maybe give you some pointers in how to sort of attack the EPA, if you like.
Yeah.
Now, I've got several screens ongoing here, and I had a call just before coming on to you. So I am poorly prepared. So I am just opening up some screens now. Oh crikey, holy moly! Glasses and everything. Now I've got the wrong set of glasses on. Looking at the screen here. Oh, is that the end of? No. Okay. Right. Sorry. You have to forgive me. It's very poor admin at the minute. I don't mind admitting it, I'm afraid. It's been a very busy day so far, as is usually the case. Here we go. There we go. Good stuff. Yeah. I'm so very tempted to say, can you all disappear for 5 minutes and let me get my house in order? But we won't. We'll put that up there. I've got this huge, great big screen in front of me and about 8 or 9 different areas that I can put things in, and so that's what's going on there. Now, before we start, the first thing we're going to do, your EPA. I'm sure Michelle has given you some coaching. She's exposed to you what is required of you on the EPA, and if not, we'll very happily provide you with those documents afterwards, and you can familiarise yourself with those areas. Let's start off on a high straight away. Michelle has got an outstanding, in capital letters bold, an outstanding track record of preparing learning partners. You'll notice straight away in brackets, by the way, but I don't like the word learner. I don't like the word learner because you're a partner, because I'm going to learn something from you today. So you're a learning partner, but she's got an outstanding record of setting the right conditions for her learning partners for their EPA. And that's not just this sort of session we have here, that's the whole shebang. So be confident in the knowledge that you're with an outstanding tutor coach there who's probably forgotten more about this sort of thing than I'll ever learn. Be confident about that. And also be confident about that for these particular sessions, we've had some very, very good feedback, pretty much from everybody. Everybody has said, I feel so much better having done that. I feel now, beforehand I felt armed, now I know I've got ammunition, and that's a big difference. Bank all that before we carry on. Bank it all. and use it. So the EPA, there's several different things that you've got to do at the EPA, and the person that will come to do the EPA with you will come from the other side of the country if necessary, and they want you to pass. So they're not there with a sort of examiner's head on, to make sure you strictly meet all of the sort of areas. The EPA is split down into different areas of professional discussion and interview, and of course that is based around your professional development, your continuous professional development logging, and of course any sort of project work and learning and development in general. But they will try wherever they possibly can, even if they're talking to you in between different areas of an EPA, to feed you the opportunities in order to be able to evidence. And that might just be in what you say and how you say it. Number one rule for your EPA is there was a lovely smile on your face when I came on this call, and now it's disappeared. So for the love of God, smile, because they want to see you enjoying the whole experience. If you turn up and you're petrified or even wary or on the back foot because this person is coming to evaluate your skill levels, then you will automatically invoke a sort of air of uncertainty, and they will start to look for things that don't exist. So make sure you're confident, make sure you smile, and very engaging. Now, pre-COVID, I'd draw the line at, say, give them a hug and a kiss, but certainly shake their hand and smile at them. But it's unlikely to happen now. But be very engaging and very confident. And if you're not a confident person, then just simply by saying, look, I'm not a very confident person, I'll be quite shy. So just bear that in mind. Because they will want to see that, because your EPA is not just about meeting fact, it is also about evaluating and establishing how you've learnt and grown throughout the whole journey. And there will be things that you will have learnt over your apprenticeship period, or things that have just basically made you understand things a bit better, that have made you a better person, a better manager, a better supervisor, and everything else right now, even though you knew that beforehand. You would have learned something and you would have said, well, I know that, but the point is, but now you know why. Now you know why it's important. So that's my intro, if you like, around the EPA. Before we go into the details of looking at those sort of micro areas, those micro sort of areas of the EPA, I'm going to stop waffling because I've now been talking for 13 minutes. I want to know about you, and then I'm going to tell you who I am, and then I'll hand the floor to Michelle, and then we'll carry on. Talk to me about you. I want to know everything about you.
I work at Sarby Redlands as a learning support assistant, one-to-one with a child, not behaviour this year, sort of lower stage of where she needs to be, so we need to push that. She's a lack child, so she's in care. I run interventions at the school. I run the first aid, head of first aid. I took over that about 1.5 years ago. I'm a mum of 2. I've got a diploma in childcare. I got that at the age of 30. Childcare has always been my pathway. But obviously I'd like to go further now. And hopefully take this qualification with me.
What's your ambition? What's your if I could give you a piece of paper right now and say, write down your dream right now, I'm going to make it happen, what would you put down?
My dream, anything, nothing job related, would be to leave the country.
Oh dear. Yeah, well, I get all that. Let's bring it a little bit more realistic then. So what is your achievement? And let's give you an achievable objective, something that is achievable. What can no matter how difficult it might seem, what is it that you want to achieve work-wise, your career, your ambition?
I'm happy where I am. I am happy where I am in my job. I would like to work my way up, but not to the teacher level. So maybe sort of like an ELSA role, supporting children in their needs with either their behaviour, emotions. So that has never been a dream, but on seeing how many children have needs, that would be my dream, to be able to support them.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
Did you have a difficult childhood?
No.
Did you have a difficult adolescence?
No.
Did you have a difficult adolescence at school learning?
No.
Wow.
No.
The reason why I asked that is that a lot of, I mean, I certainly did, absolutely, in all those areas. Yeah, try teaching me English at 14. I'll hit you around the head with a blackboard. No, I did. I did. I was awful. The reason why I ask that is because a lot of people that I've met in my experience who have can empathise with young people who have difficulties in learning or far more creative rather than academic, and therefore automatically perceived to be disruptive, understand that, and so they gravitate to it as a not as an ambition but as a vocation. They have a drawing.
No, I didn't. I think it was, I've never seen that sort of side of things until I got this job.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this for now?
5 years.
And that's with the same place.
Yeah, with the same place. And obviously, I probably was one of them people that went in with the wrong attitude of looking at behaviours.
Yeah.
I saw them just as naughty.
Yeah.
On working closer with these children, and I usually have the behaviours, you see a bigger picture when you get to know the child, and you know there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. So that's what makes me think I could take them all home and give them
Bless your heart.
life, but that's what's made me sway that way now.
Yeah. Well, quite powerful, and I think you're doing yourself a disservice. And there's a couple of there's a few words I want you to put in your lexicon, your big book of words in your head. The first one is that when it comes to your job, your current vocation, you described what you do as you sort of give support to the lower end of learning for kids, etc. That you're doing yourself a huge disservice there. You are providing one-to-one mutual support, one-to-one coaching, one-to-one implied mentorship to young children in education who have difficulties. And that is an incredibly difficult, hugely emotionally burdening role, and you've got to be a special type of someone to be able to do that. It's got nothing to do with it's part of teaching and every child has to be taught, and it's got everything to do with try and get the right person who can do it. Then you've got to be a certain type of person, and I do empathise with the difficulties of that in every single shape and form. I was in the army for 26 years, retired in 2014. I retired as a warrant officer class 1, a regimental sergeant major, a really scary monster, they used to call us, RSM. I went into training education, done the Troops to Teachers program, and I'm 6'3". I'm built like an angry salami. I say athletic. The wife says skinny, but the bottom line is that I can be quite an intimidating character when I sort of flick a switch. And Troops to Teachers was all about getting people like me into the classroom, so that a younger version of me didn't dare step over the line, because if they did, they knew what would be coming their way, which would be not a clip round the ear, but words produced in such a way that you would just shrink back in your chair. And it was all part of a strategy at the time to re-empower, ironically, teachers. But actually, the teachers and the unions pushed back against it, and it was not popular. And actually, those of us who were on the program understood why that was the case, because it almost looked upon Michael Gove, say no more, because he was the DFE guy at the time, it almost looked upon him invoking some form of strategy for failed teachers, which of course is not the case. But that journey there led me into behavioural, looking after kids with behavioural difficulties and mentoring them and so forth. And I first started that with a similar sort of attitude that you did, thinking this is very clear cut. They've just got a crappy attitude. They probably haven't got a mum in their life or a dad in their life or in a home. And what they need is short, sharp shock, boundaries set, done. Easy peasy. And then you very quickly find out that a 12-year-old will happily go toe to toe with you if you want to. And they've got no idea of the sort of bounds or scopes of what you're doing. I mean, when I was first told I was by a 12-year-old that he was going to knock me out, and I felt, and I think my response to him was, I don't think you could knock yourself out, let alone me, Nipper. Go and sit down. But the point was, you then really realise, crikey, you can't deal like with these.
No.
You know, they need to know that you're not a threat in their life. And I very quickly realised that, this was something I really, really wanted to go, was to help these kids. And these two kids changed my complete and utter attitude around, and I became a mentor of theirs locally to a local school in Nottingham. And I then wanted to see what happens to them when it goes wrong. So I went to prison in Leicester, not literally locked up, but I was there for 5 months on the education wing there, and I was teaching people maths and English and so on and so on. And then it all disappeared one day when I realised you're never going to get rich in this job. This is how you know when people who, like myself and Michelle, when we turn around and say we care about you, that I know it's very fluffy and out of place in 2020, but that's fact, because she's not paid 29 grand or 30 grand to do that job. No. Nor am I. There's no money in it. You're in a similar industry. There is no money in it. We don't do it for money. We do it because we're going to add value to other people, and that enriches us. That's why we do it. And I went and spent 4 years in the corporate world when I was offered lots of money. And my wife will be the first one to tell you, I've never been so bloody miserable or snappy in all my life. I was ready to execute people like that. No dramas at all. So that's my background. And the reason why I tell you all of that is because when you look at leadership and management and managing teams and understanding relationships and building relationships and coaching and mentoring, 26 years in the infantry and leaving the army as a senior rank that you can get as a soldier, hopefully will give some credence there, and as well as obviously an empathy with regards to your own particular role, which ultimately I think probably when I left the army was my dream job, was to go and help young kids. And my wife, if she was in on this conversation, would be the first one to turn around and say, well, I told him to go and help the army cadets out, but I wanted to help kids who weren't dealing with anything to do with any sort of structured clubs or whatever, just individuals. Please don't lower the importance by just saying I help kids at the lower end of the education spectrum. You are a coach. You help them, you provide mutual support, and you provide implied mentoring. You help them make decisions, and I have no doubt that is the case. It's not a simple case of, right, let's take a look at arithmetic today, because half the conversation you will have with him or her, them, will be about some decisions that they've got to make in real life. And you're in a hugely important role, massively important role, and our industry know that. It's probably your industry that doesn't really know that. You don't really know the power of it. It was difficult to pat ourselves on the back, and it's not a celebrationary thing, but please don't ignore or lower the impact that you have and the impact that has on your apprenticeship, which is huge. Okay, great. Michelle, did you want to say anything before we carry on? Sorry, love, I've just taken 27 minutes of your life.
No. It's all interesting, and it's really good to hear a refresh of what Dawn's just said there. And Mike, you've obviously raising the importance to her acknowledging the role that you do and the importance and the effect that you have. So yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, wonderful. Great. Anyway, brilliant. Okay, so talk to me about CPD. Talk to me about continual professional development. What have you done over your apprenticeship period to professionally develop yourself notwithstanding, of course, this course. But how have you developed yourself over the past 18 months? Is it 2 years, something like that?
Yeah.
2 years, yeah. Yeah. Talk to me about your CPD.
I've built on that CPD by managing 2 members of staff within the setting.
Okay.
I've done coaching sessions with them. I've had to learn how to do the coaching sessions and hold the appraisals.
How did you learn that?
I went to my line manager and then approached SLT because I wanted to clearly get it right. And
SLT being senior leadership team, I suppose.
Yeah, and build on that and be able to offer my support in the correct way. So we ran over that several times. I followed SLT around and when they were doing their observations and appraisals, we made sure I was allowed to sit in some appraisals.
Yeah.
And then obviously I researched about them because I knew from doing my own appraisals how I felt they should be. And then I took that to the 2 members of my team and we built on them really, because they put things in place that they wanted to be able to achieve on their coaching sessions. So then I impacted on that and put extra training and different things in for them to be able to reach their potential. Not only me, but them as well. The observations, they were all new to me. I've never done them before. I wasn't sure what was being looked at or asked of me. I feel more confident in being able to support other members of staff now on my CPD. So I've built on that. Confidence was a big issue before, and now I feel that I could probably, I don't even know how to put it. I could be called on. So before I'd probably look at sort of passing the buck, and not.
So beforehand you were perhaps an also ran, now you're a go-to.
Yeah. I've obviously took over first aid. I've had to learn all of that. I put things in place for everybody. I do it all with confidence now. There was a one-to-one the other week where a child, he's severely autistic. Not many staff can gel with the child, and we knew that his one-to-one was going to be off long term. I then took it upon myself, which would never have happened before, to organise how we were going to do this in the best way for everything. Who had gelled with the child, who could support him, who he would work with as well was the main one, because he doesn't work with many people. But he's funded and we needed the correct cover. We've just started getting him back into class, and I didn't want that to then impact on his one-to-one on her return. So I took the lead role in that and was able to organise who was best to cover where and when. We were able to do that as well, and that ended really, really well. He's now, by picking the correct members of staff to work with him, he's now willing to work with more people. We can then ease his one-to-one up slightly throughout the day. So he's having different opportunities at different points,
which is hugely important for him. I would have thought, for the variety. Otherwise, yeah.
The other week we couldn't get him into class. At the beginning of term, he wasn't in class. He'd be under a table. We didn't want to knock the work that had been done so far. So we went with a different approach this time of not offering him just the one-to-one. I decided that it was best that he he was given 3 different members of staff throughout the day. Change of face, because I also have picked up he becomes very reliant on one member of staff and then refuses to work with anybody. So by building bridges with 3 different members of staff, that was a breakthrough that we needed.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else.
That's all very. I mean, lots of things are coming through my head now, and you may have seen my eyes dotted around while I was moving things around and stuff. Not very good active listening, is it? But you're going to get that on your EPA as well. You're going to get the person that is evaluating. They're going to be writing. You're going to be saying something. All of a sudden, they're going to start writing. They're going to be more focused on their writing than listening to you. Don't stop. Keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. Because just in your speaking there, I'm picking up all sorts. I'm picking up the fact that you are self-aware. You are reliant. You have also had an impact on other people's managing their performance, and there will be lots of criteria that are flagged up from that little conversation there. That might just be before the EPA starts. So know that everything that you say is being listened to by that person for them to make that judgment as to whether you have evidenced the fact that you understand certain elements of team leader supervisory sort of level. What about your so have you put together a portfolio, an evidence portfolio? Have you put that together?
Yeah, I've been putting that together.
And during the time of the apprenticeship, have you done any sort of project work or anything like that?
Yeah, I've planned and arranged a project looking at attendance within the organisation.
Okay, cool.
We spotted that attendance had took an all-time dip. This was actually already being looked at by a member of the SLT team, but we did notice that it had started to dip again and people had lost their engagement within the project that was set. So we decided to then, I asked if I could get on board, and we pulled in Leicester City Football Club. And I focused my project on building attendance and looking at rewards and different systems that we could use that had an overall impact rather than focusing just on the 1 or 2 individuals. We needed to look at an all-round package that pulled parents in, children in.
Interesting. So you looked at the holistic, as they call it, holistic, which is the whole, looking at the whole, not the some of the individual parts, but the whole. So you looked at the whole thing and turned what may well have been the minority into a majority challenge. Yeah. So you turn something from a minority problem, attendance, into a majority challenge. If you meet this, Leicester City Football Club will come and give you all a lollipop, for example. Was it based around that sort of thing?
I put in place with my line manager that we would actually have tours of the stadium.
Oh, wow, great. And did any of that come off?
Yeah, we still work with Leicester City now.
What, parents as well?
It was mainly children, but we did ask parents to join us for number wise.
But you're the new best friend with all sorts of people, aren't you?
The LCFC have actually built a new training ground in our local village, and we feel that they were trying to pull people on side, so we used it to our advantage.
Absolutely, yeah. You'd be good in the strategic risk and compliance boardroom. I can tell you that for sure. Yeah, well done you. Well, that's great. Well, I mean, I haven't seen that, and I'm sure you've shared that with Michelle. But if you haven't, then do please, because that is a fantastic fantastic project there. And just on that, not to sort of go forwards and then backwards, but I always find that on doing EPA, since I've been helping Michelle out with these, I always find if it's an appropriate time to mention it, then mention it, don't structure it. So, for example, normally I would talk to you about the way in which you should answer a compliancy or competency-based question,
Yeah.
which is, have you ever, or what is, something that you've got to reflect upon. And normally I'll leave that until much later, but you actually answered that quite well, and that's following the mnemonic STAR. Have you ever heard STAR before? Yeah. STAR is a way you speak well. You're a confident speaker and you're a logical speaker. You structure your response or the way in which you present something as quite logical. And well, it's a minority of people that can do that without getting lost. I'm a good example. I am a gabbler. I waffle. My wife tells me, you just spent 20 minutes telling the kids to do the washing up. Did you really need to bring in 40 analogies of swimming the English Ocean? No, you did not. So people like me need structure on how to answer questions in a formal environment. You, I assess, are pretty good naturally, but just to give you some heads up, and I'll put this in an email to you afterwards where I'll cover some of the things I've covered today. And that's following the mnemonic STAR. The first is the situation, the second is the task, the third are the actions, and the fourth being the result. So if you look upon that as a sequence of answering a question, and you look upon the response that you've just given me for, have you ever run a project before? Then you'll find that you actually followed that STAR process in responding. But that's how you make sure that you cover all those areas. The situation was we needed to improve our attendance. My specific task was to own the improvement of the attendance figures, and the actions I took. Well, first of all, we decided that this was not an individual targeted intelligent approach to attendance for individual children. We decided to actually, rather than have that as a minority problem, actually turn it into a majority challenge. And we done that by engaging with local superstars like Leicester City Football Club and promoting that if our attendance reaches a certain percentage, then there will be benefits for that. Now, yes, that is a bit of transactional leadership. Get that in, for the love of God. Yes, that is a bit of transactional leadership, but in this case, the negatives from that were that it would affect statistics. No one was going to get hurt or offended or anything. We needed to improve as a challenge, and the end result of that was our attendance raised. There was much more buy-in from attendance from our learners and from our pupils and students. But we also found that there was a great deal more engagement holistically in school activity from some parents, where previously there probably was none. So we saw it as a huge success. And of that success, my input was to change it from an intelligent minority targeted approach to attendance to a majority challenge using transactional leadership. Oh my God, they'd be like, oh, just leave now, Dawn. That's like a distinction. Off you go. So you need to make sure you watch this back and remember them words. All right. Well, that's really good. That's a really good example, though, isn't it, Shell? I mean, what's she done there?
Yeah, definitely. And like you've said, even using the STAR approach without even knowing it, and I do agree with Mike. It is the minority that can structure answers in that way naturally without even thinking too much. It was very natural for you to use that method. And yeah, the project that Dawn was just reflecting on was what was set. Well, obviously Dawn came up with the project herself, but for the unit of undertaking a project for the diploma side. So it prompted it, and then Dawn ran with it, which was brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, awesome. That's very, very good. Cool. Okay, so let's move on to we'll quickly do this, and then we'll have a little bit of a break because your ladies' ears must be bleeding. And look at this, my lovely wife. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this? Can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that, ladies? My lovely wife has bought that for me. That's my lunch. That's your fault, Shell. Keep programming things at lunchtime. Anyway, so we'll do this little bit, then we'll have a little bit of a break. So there are two sort of areas of the EPA notwithstanding the portfolio evidence and discussion around there, but also the whole thing. You know, from the minute go, you're being evaluated as, is this learner engaged? Has this learner enjoyed her journey? Has this learner is this learner a better person and a better work colleague, being informed on leadership, you know, supervisory principles and so on. So it is about the whole thing, the holistic marking of you. It's not very simply a case of what is 1 and 1, 2, good, pass. It's not like that. But in saying that, when it comes to the sort of active parts of the EPA, it's in 2 parts. The first one is a professional discussion, and the second one is an interview. And I want you immediately to look at both of those as 2 separate things completely.
Yeah.
And where people go in life is, and those, they're not learning statements, they are professional statements. Now, professional discussion is a professional discussion. Doesn't matter whether that's on a course or whether that's in the boardroom.
Yeah.
An interview is an interview, and they are and I want to make it very clear for your understanding, very succinctly, which is unusual for me, very succinctly what the differences are. Professional discussion is 2-way, and it's incumbent upon the person that owns the professional discussion to feed opportunities to you to be able to explore and reciprocate. It is a 2-way process. It is not a, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? It is a 2-way process. It is a discussion. And so whenever you see a discussion or professional discussion, you know, you should smile slightly, because the person that owns it is the person that is responsible for it. You've probably had professional discussions with Michelle, right?
Yeah.
On your journey. Well, Michelle owns that professional discussion, and it's incumbent upon her to give you the opportunities to evidence your understanding of criteria. It's no different in business or in an organization. You know, if I have a professional discussion with you about children's attitude and I'm your boss at work and how we can change that, it's incumbent upon me to give you the opportunities to explore it, not for me to poo-poo or for me to say, no, we're not doing that. That's not a professional discussion. And this is why, believe it or not, that in business in general and in work in general, so many toxic relationships appear, usually from managers.
Yeah.
You know, who think they know everything about managing people, who actually know diddly piddly squat, and they create this sort of toxicity. So that's the first one, professional discussion, 2-way. We're going to do some of that in a minute. The next one is the interview. Now that is different. The interview is an interview, and people might smile and they might shake hands and make you feel comfortable, etc. That is all part. You are being measured. It is formal. You are being measured and you are being evaluated from the word go. Everything about you, your body language, the way you hear, the way you answer a question, the way you hear and listen to a question, everything about you is being evaluated. No different than when you go for a job interview. I've been privileged enough since leaving the army where I've been in positions where I've hired and fired, and I have hired people solely because of their behavior at the interview, not because of what they told me or their qualifications.
No.
Because of how they conducted themselves. And I saw that actually, you know what? She would be great on a tender process for £2.5 million because nothing is flustering her. Yes, she's not appropriately qualified. Yes, she hasn't got enough experience. In my head, thinking all of this, but at the same time, look how cool she is.
Yeah.
So an interview is completely different.
Yeah.
Professional discussion is completely different. 2 different things. So what I'd like to do now, if that's okay, is take a break. I'm going to say 15 minutes, if that's all right, until 2 o'clock, okay? And then when we come back, we will, in part 2, we will do 15, 20 minutes on a professional discussion and 15, 20 minutes on an interview, and then we'll wrap up. And then what I'll do is I'll offer the floor to Michelle and yourself, and if there's any other areas that you'd like to look at, we'll go into that. If that's all right, ladies, I'll finish my coffee and have a sandwich.
Yeah,
is that all right?
Yeah,
no problem.
How do you feel? All right so far?
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Has anything that we said so far been of value?
Yeah,
I hope
definitely.
so, because otherwise we've just wasted the past 47 minutes, haven't we? Keep smiling, have a sense of humour in this life. It'll get you a long, long way. All right. Well, look, I'll stay in the channel, but I'll turn the camera and mic off, and you feel free to have one-to-ones perhaps, where that might be of use. All right. But I'll see you at 1 o'clock. All right. 2 o'clock. All right.
Thank you. That's good. Really well so far.
Yeah, feel okay.
Good. It's amazing how even without trying to structure your answer too much, it just naturally. But I think it's just in the way that you talk, isn't it? It comes natural to you, or
so many times though.
But everybody does that. I do that as well. It's to give your brain the extra few seconds, isn't it?
Yeah.
To think out loud, and that's okay to take time to think.
What way to bring it, what way to say it and deliver it in the best way. I think, that's just my couple of seconds where I go, you do know.
But that's very natural. There's some people that can hear a question and within a second come up with an answer, because you want the answer to be really good. So if it takes you a few seconds, that silence, don't feel uncomfortable by that silence. If you need a few seconds, or if you're struggling, just say, can you just give me 1 second, just have a little think, and then come back. It's a perfectly kind of reasonable thing to do. There's not many times that,
and I didn't even look at it a minute ago.
No, that's good. That's good though. But actually looking through the documents helps you prepare by thinking what kind of things can come up, and it helps you identify if there are keywords that you need to do a bit of research on, or something you think, oh, actually, what is my example for that, or what have I done around that? There might be all certain ones, but then it's brilliant if you don't need to look at them, because that's the best. They're there basically as a comfort blanket, I think, is the best way to describe them.
The interview that's coming up.
Yeah.
Is that? Oh, I couldn't.
So the sheet that let me bring it up on my So there was two sheets, weren't there, that I sent? There was a CPD professional discussion where you've got your points on there around you. Well, you've already spoke about quite a bit about that already. And then the other one, the other sheet that's got all the different criteria down the left-hand side. That's your let me bring it up.
Did it say behaviours at the top?
It may do. Let me just open it to be sure.
Responsibility.
EPA. So you are looking at. Let me just find it online and I can share my screen. Right, that's the CPD. I can't see it now. 1 second. Put rid of evidence. Mark sheet. Here we go. So on the portfolio of evidence mark sheet, that's got all of your standards down the left-hand side, and then the criteria. But another place you can go to look for all of this is your one file. So on one file, how you've got your knowledge, skills, and behaviours at the bottom of your portfolio page. Your knowledge is the biggest section in this. Then they will also look at skills and behaviours as well, and how they integrate with that. So it's probably easier to look at it on one file, to be honest.
Yeah,
skills and behaviours, and you can extend them that way.
I've got the skills paper in front of me. I've filled that in. The behaviours, I got stuck on the agile one. Flexible to the needs of the organisation, is creative, innovative and enterprising when seeking solutions to businesses' needs. So
your Leicester City, I know you've already spoke about that, but that's a really good example for that, because that was being creative, wasn't it? That didn't kind of fall on your doorstep, as to say. No. You had to really think outside the box, and that's something that you took a lead on. Is there anything else that you have? Think about your first aid role as well, because that's something that you lead on. Is there anything that you've done in that where you've taken the lead role?
Do it. I have changed how we do it. I didn't like how.
Yep.
My best friend, one of my best friends who left a year ago, I took over from her. Now she made booklets and I didn't like the booklets. It sounds silly because we've got nowhere as a business to store them, and we have to store accidents for 25 years. So it frustrated me because it was left to me to find somewhere to store them. So I've changed our way of doing that. People weren't filling in the forms correctly, so I've tweaked the forms, and yeah, I've made them in folders.
Brilliant.
Now,
I remember you talking about this, yeah.
Yeah, they frustrated me. The booklets are like that, and we do one of them a term. But because it's got a ring binder and everything else on it, there's nowhere we can't store them. They're massive. So I've done them. No, it's probably about 3 a term that we filled in. So I've changed it now. We've got accident and incident, and that they're in separate folders, and we actually have a box now. So say we did it termly, I put enough sheets in for what I think would last a term, and then I just literally just take them out, put them in sort of, and put a note around the edge and just put spring 1.
Okay, yeah.
They go in a box.
File them.
I've nearly done a whole year's worth, and there's still room in a box, whereas by now we'd probably be about 60 books in with nowhere. So just something silly like that, but
yeah,
it was
such a big impact. So read back that statement that you just read to me, the statement that you were trying to think of an example for. Just read that back to me.
flexible to the needs of the organisation, is creative, innovative, I hate that word, and enterprising when seeking solutions to a business's need, positive, adaptable, and responds well to feedback and need for change.
Okay, so that example you just shared with me, now you've spoke about your example and reflected on the statement that you said. Do you think that meets that?
Yeah. Because it was a need for it.
It's actually a perfect example because it's innovative, because it's something that you are changing. It's something new, isn't it, that you've decided to do. You're being creative because you're thinking of ways that you can do that. I'm trying to think of the other things that are in there now. Listening to feedback and needing for change. So you will have got that feedback, even if it's not by a person. The feedback will be, well, I can physically see that we don't have enough room to store everything and keep going the way we are. So I need to implement change and I need to come up with a strategy. So that's a brilliant example. And you've got it because it's in you. It's just linking it, isn't it, to them keywords?
Yeah, being put on the spot as well. I think, I look too much ahead, but I just...
And a lot of your examples will flow into others, if that makes sense. So if you describe that will then look at, you'll be showing organisation, you'll be showing supporting the team, because you will have had to then inform the team of the changes. You'll be looking at compliance because of GDPR, which is a really good quote that you said there of how long you need to keep the records for. So just by you giving that one example, the endpoint assessor will holistically look at multiple criteria, multiple standards to measure that against. So you may not be asked directly for an example from one thing, because you may have covered it in something else, which is a good thing, because they're holistic. It means that you're really covering all angles.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just going to go and grab a quick drink before we come back. Do you want to give yourself a drink as well, and just a few minutes just to...
I'll leave this on and then just mute it and turn my camera
that's what I'll do. I'll do that, and then we'll join in a few minutes. All right.
Thanks.
Brill. Speak to you in a minute. Bye.
Bye.
Hello. Still recording. We'll stop that one.